You are not late. You are not early. You are very much on time to unleash your potentials and to set unrealistic goals. Be specific on what you are pursuing. Blend your passion with quality and unlock the true hidden talent in you. Stay tuned with Next Step 360 degrees.
A very good evening and welcome to Next Step 360. We sincerely apologize for the delay that we experienced earlier on. Next Step 360 is proudly organized by the Rotary Club of University of Peradeniya, and since its inception back in 2006, Next Step has been concluded successfully many times and is one of the biggest professional development conferences in Kandy. But however, due to the prevailing situation in the country, we have decided to meet you via Zoom. That is why you are seeing us on your screen. In Next Step 360, we hope the University of Peradeniya hopes to send a well-educated, talented, and a determined young workforce to the society to do an effective and an efficient service to the world. The topic of discussion, however, today, this evening, is going to be undergraduates, helping undergraduates to bridge the gap between what they study and what is expected from them when they enter the corporate sector. To discuss about this and more, we have today with us Mr. Lalith De Silva. He is the former Group CEO at Sri Lanka Telecom PLC and Managing Partner at LDS Australasia, former CEO at Mobitel Private Limited, and also one of the former directors and consultants at the Sri Lankan Airlines. We also have with us this evening Ms. Roshanie J. Moraes, Executive Vice President at John Keels Holdings Private Limited and President at the Council for Business with Britain, and she's one of the chairperson at the Sri Lanka Association of Shopping Malls as well. And finally, we are pleased to have Dr. Sumith De Silva. He's the Head of Marketing and Corporate Communications, Airport and Aviation Services, Sri Lanka Private Limited. And he's the Vice President for Sri Lanka Academy for Global Business Advancement, USA. And he's also a member of Asia Pacific Institute for Events Management. A very good evening, both gentlemen and lady, and thank you so much for being with us this evening. I would like to direct my first question to Mr. Lalith De Silva. Some people, as soon as they get out of the school, and especially undergraduates, they're either met with two options. One is to get a job here in Sri Lanka locally, the easier option, or some of them would like to go abroad and study and then get a job abroad. My question is, what is the current state of the domestic and foreign job market against a backdrop where we're suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic, and what has changed in the last 5 years, and what sort of a change can we expect in the coming 5 to 10 years?
Good evening to all of you, and thank you for Trot for organizing this wonderful event, and especially Roshan and Ravid, who has been coordinating with me to attend this workshop 2 days ago. Truly appreciate that for their leadership and trying to share this knowledge from, we have distinguished panelists, and then I'm sure this type of effort is exemplary for the all the universities to follow this type of projects. Now, with regard to the question you asked, Tarusha, I think looking for jobs in Sri Lanka or going overseas study and trying to get into job market, I haven't got a clear answer, but what I say is both are good. There's no question, it doesn't mean that if you get qualified in Sri Lanka, your marketability is less. I don't think so. And I have seen many people who has got educated in Sri Lanka doing well in Sri Lanka, and also once they go overseas, again they show their colors and they are doing well in overseas, most developed countries. But at the moment, there's a huge crisis in job market. around the world, in Sri Lanka and rest of the world. This has never experienced this type of crisis in the world. I'm not trying to create fear for you all, for all the students, but with this crisis, there are a lot of opportunities as well for all of you. So what I say is next, what we have been experiencing before this COVID, definitely there was a kind of a crisis. There are so many disruptive technologies has been introduced. And also we are living in volatile and very complex, ambiguous world, and very difficult for young children of your generation to understand where we are heading towards. It's so complex. So that complexity has increased after COVID. But most important thing is next 5 years, actually next 2 years, it's critical for all of us. No person in the world knows what's happening even next week. Like for example, in Australia, there was 0 COVID patient 2 days ago, and they had a wonderful time for 2 months. Again, they found few people in Sydney. So things are changing every minute. Germany is going to shut down for Christmas. So next 2 years is critical, but there will be a lot of opportunities for Sri Lankan, and we discuss with the next few questions. And also next 10 years, I am sure that COVID may go, but the thing is, the skill that we will develop during this time, and also learning certain strategies for you to develop your careers, I am sure that with this experience, you will all be fit into next 3-4 decades to survive, because we don't know, we are going to learn how to live in uncertainties, and you will enhance your resilience during this time. So the answer is very critical time, but we'll discuss what are the opportunities we all have next few years. Thank you.
I'm really grateful for the answer by Mr. Lalith De Silva, such an insightful answer for the first question that we started off this proceeding with. I would like to move over to Ms. Roshanie J. Moraes. I would like to see what thoughts that she has to share with us.
Hi, and thank you once again to University of Peradeniya for inviting me. A real pleasure to be here. On the specific question that you asked, I think I completely agree with what Lalith said. These are certainly very uncertain times, very strange times. But don't forget, every dark cloud has a silver lining. And every problem we know has some solution. So we have to really now at this moment think about what opportunities does this situation present us. It's, if we step back, especially if you look at our generation, we went through a 30-year war. And through that, we learned resilience. And through that, we learned how to carry on business, how to keep the economy going, how to find jobs, how to move around jobs. So, we kind of lived our life in that period and learned how to overcome adversity. I think this is presenting the current generation, and I tell this to my son all the time. It gives you an opportunity to look at the world in a different way through the eyes of, through the angle of COVID, and tests your grit, and it tests your might as to how you come through it. Now, in terms of, and like Lalith said, if you learn to come through that in a positive manner, the few who come through all of this in a positive framework, in a positive manner, with all your skills sharpened, especially the problem solving skills, you will be, you'll have a lot of opportunity. You will be the kingmakers in the corporate world, wherever it is, whether you work in research or corporate world or in the public sector. I am almost sure that you will shine. About getting jobs and about the job market, I think it's challenging. But even though it's challenging, there are opportunities, there are industries that have opportunities, and maybe we can take that up in a different question. There are lots of industries that have presented opportunities in this environment. So you can look to those, you can look to creating your own businesses. That also has a lot of opportunity. I'm sure we can talk about it further in the other questions. But yes, you know, here you should actually take this as an opportunity and learn from it and learn how to come through this kind of adversity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roshanie, for that answer. I would like to move over to Dr. Sumith De Silva.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much for organizing this wonderful webinar, and then it's a pleasure to be with our eminent speakers today to share something we have in common to our young generation. Actually, Sarusha, to your answer, I'm really in agreement with what our previous speakers talk about. So I did research about, for example, the man hours lost this year because of the COVID situation. And then I found that there are around 18% of loss of working hours in the whole world on average. And also I found that, you know, when you look at the global labor force income loss is 3.5 trillion US dollars. And so if you look at the worst hit industries, like where I come from, aviation, travel tourism, construction, education, and transportation, they are the top. So therefore, so even though we have the challenge, what Mr. Lalith said exactly is correct, it's very difficult to predict and very dynamic. We are living in a VUCA world, which is very volatile and so on. And so, but my suggestion to you is that stay in faith and focus on what you do. As Ms. Roshanie correctly mentioned, there are a lot of industries with new opportunities coming up. And I see, for example, now almost all the industries will be connected through digital and IT. Web analytics will be, or data analytics will be the key industry for the business world. And there's a transition basically from normally we look at an organization where employees work towards efficiency. Now this drive has changed, as previous speakers correctly mentioned about resilience, how employees can be resilient in the organization, and then how we can develop our resilient skills. So that will be, I think I can say, it's kind of a keyword in the discussion today. How can we develop our resilience, and how can we develop that competence as an employee or future employee to be able to fit with the challenges in the future. So that is, I think, my answer to this question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sumith. Right before I move on to the next question, I would like to remind all of you who join us, who's joining right now, who will join, and who's joined right now, to remind you that there will be a question and answer session at the end of the panel discussion. So you can post your questions through this thread, whatever that you feel, whatever that you want your answers for. My second question is, COVID-19 is obviously the biggest challenge that the world is facing at the moment, and undoubtedly the business sector of every country, even here in Sri Lanka, is impacted because of the pandemic. And I would like to ask the panelists whether they think that the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the business sector and employment in Sri Lanka entirely in a negative manner. If so, how? And whether it's going to be extremely difficult for us to bounce back, or whether it will be easy to tackle this with the talks of a vaccine as well. I would like to focus my attention first to Mr. Lalith De Silva in this regard.
I think COVID is #1 issue for all businesses. There's no question about it. Every business in the world, around the world, has been impacted big time. I think Dr. Sumith is from the aviation. You know what is happening. All the airlines, 90% of the aircrafts on the ground, right? And so the number of joblesses, what I read was over 150 million jobs has been already lost. many part-time jobs, and all temporary jobs are losing, and also some senior jobs have been wiped out. And this is happening in Sri Lanka. I think we had a good time, last first 6 months, with the COVID phase 1 we were okay, we were surviving, government did a wonderful job. But then again, we are experiencing this wave 2, and I think the repercussions can be seen within next 2 to 3 months. But we all have to get ready. All the businesses and students like you all should get ready how to face this situation. What I think mainly, you should focus on your mental and physical health. I think most of the Sri Lankan students from young age, even the university time, or even for the adults, we have all the tools to solve other management problems, engineering problems, and also all other kind. We have enough tools, but I think we lack the number of tools that we all have to use to how to maintain our fitness level, mental fitness, physical health. So these are the tools we can think now. Everybody can say that you have to enhance your resilience, but student doesn't know how to enhance their resilience. But there are tools available, and we'll discuss with the next few months. But main thing here, you all have to stay relevant. You maybe have thought, you may have all dream jobs, right? Everybody has passionate thinking what you have been planning, but now the time you have to think differently. Next 1 or 2 years, you must see what jobs are going to be available. And for example, IT people. Now I think it's very clear. Digitization around the world has increased 5-fold. Every nation is trying to digitize, enhancing e-commerce and all that. They are using new technologies, and so these are the time. Maybe even engineering students should think of new technologies, how we can adapt easily and stay relevant. That's number 1. Number 2, you should also think grabbing even part-time jobs. Don't also think of, we have a culture of full-time jobs, permanent jobs. Don't think about it. It's the time for you to learn and stay relevant. Wherever you can grab it and just get engaged. Even don't think about money. I think you should not focus on money alone. All the benefits. We should also try to learn and new skills. That is what required for the job market. So basically what I say is, we'll discuss later how you can be mentally fit and maintain your happiness level is the key. Because the more you hear about these negative messages, and your parents, your friends around, and you are decreasing your attention levels, you are going to increase your stress level and depression, anxiety. This is happening around the world. I can see these young people who have been moving with many people day-to-day basis. Now you all are stuck in home and you are in Zoom calls all the time. Again and again, science has proven this is not unhealthy. I think these are the tools that we all will learn, and today we'll discuss a little bit of those tools. And this has to come from the business world, the public sector, and even for student community. And that is something I feel the country has not done enough in that. And so we'll discuss about it, but stay relevant. That's the key message. And also enhance your emotional intelligence. This is the time you have to enhance your emotional intelligence, not the IQ. For next 2 to 3 years survival, you need all these tools. So we'll discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lalith De Silva. That was very important what you said. Enhance emotional intelligence. I would like to move over to Ms. Roshanie J. Moraes.
Okay, so on the same question, what I would like to add is that when you consider this, there is no doubt, there is no disagreement on that all businesses have got impacted, whichever way. But like I said, there are businesses that are, showing opportunities during this time. Take the company that is doing, who did this software, Zoom. Zoom was unheard of 2-3 years ago. And we all know the story about how that developed and how the value of Zoom went through the roof. Think about the last mile delivery, Pick Me, Uber, all of these people got onto the road to do all kinds of things. Pick Me did food delivery, grocery delivery. So I'm just giving you examples. Most of the companies had to change their business model in order to face this situation. Take the supermarket. Supermarkets were used to servicing about 150 to 200,000 customers a day who walked into the supermarket. Almost overnight, they had to change that to a delivery model. And some of them couldn't cope. And some of them had to, in the last so many months, change their business model, digitize their processes, and get ready for this change. So these are some of the changes that the businesses are doing to stay relevant. And I borrow this phrase from Lalith, who said stay relevant. Yes, so businesses are changing their processes, they're changing their business models in order to survive and stay relevant to a changing market. Markets are changing as we speak. It's become so dynamic. For you, what you have to do is, this may be the time, we've all got a lot of time staying at home or wherever we are, whether we are in our hostels or whatever. We're not spending time commuting, so we are saving some time now. It is time to think about what your skills are and how relevant they are in today's context. Because our skills that we have, the skills that we built over many years in your case, and in over many decades in our case, are overnight becoming irrelevant. It's of no use to the current business because the business has changed. So unless we change our skills and we upgrade our skills in that same speed, we become irrelevant. And then you can't blame anybody. If your job is not there for you anymore, because if your skills are not up to date, and if you've become irrelevant in the market. So I think that's a key point. It's good to go see what is there in the market, what is creating jobs in the market, what industries are creating jobs in the market, and then try to match your skills to see. If there is a gap, now is the time to fill that gap and adjust that. So that's my point to your question, Tarusha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roshanie. I would like to now focus my attention towards Dr. Sumith De Silva.
Yes, Tarusha, it's an interesting question actually. And to talk about our industry, I will talk about first the industry, the impact, and then what we can do to overcome the situation during this challenge situation. Actually, our industry is around $2.7 trillion, the whole world. If it is a country, if it was a country, we would think of it's the 20th largest country in the world. And then we actually contribute to 65 million employment opportunities in the whole world. And think of the scale that we have. And then if you look at the airline industry, there are around 5,000 airlines in the world registered under ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization. Out of which, you believe, for example, 17,000 now, we have already all around the world around, let's say 24,000 aircraft in the world. And then out of that, 17,000 now almost grounded, nearly grounded. So you look at the impact, for example, and then last year we had 4.5 billion passengers worldwide, and this time we are expecting 60% decline in the whole world. And so this is the impact that it has brought up, and we are the worst hit industry in the whole world if you look at aviation. But it is not only the challenge that we have. For example, now as a country, if you look at our country, so according to IATA, International Airport Airline Transport Association, for example, they provide the statistics like, we are providing nearly 700,000 employment opportunities to the country. And we are contributing to the GDPs around 9%. So that is huge. And so if you look at our industry, where we come from, the airport, for example, before the COVID situation, we had around 1,000 180 flight movements a day, 180 flight movements a day. Now it has come down to, it's around 20 a day. And we had overflying around 160 to 170 a day. But it has come down to 20 to 30. So that is the challenge that we have. But as a strategy, now Sri Lanka has done better when we look at the other world. But as Mr. Lalith earlier said, sometimes we are the best, but again, the situation can change in a minute, in a day. And then, so we had the second wave coming up, and then we were just thinking positive to open up the corridors and then open the borders to international tourists. And now we are looking at a different way. Sri Lanka tourism is working on a different angle. And I think you have heard about that we are going to operate some charter flights to Sri Lanka from 26th, and then we are trying to get some international tourists, and then we are going to open some corridors, and there will be tourist bubbles to be open, where we have some new gateways among 2 or 3 countries, where we have mutual understanding about and the trust is there about our health procedures and health practices, and where we can begin. Again, we think of still positive as a country where we have some good health practices, and we have to encourage that health practices among the Sri Lankans. And when we look at the Europe and and our country, so I think in my personal view, we have done better. And so we are looking at really marketing that to the world to bring back the tourists. And so we have to build the confidence among the international community about our performance during the COVID situation. And then we, as citizens of the country, the people have a big responsibility to adhere to the health guidelines and then follow the guidelines actually. And so almost our industry is really hurt, and there are a lot of challenges for the existing jobs. But hope that, even you might have heard that how airlines are coming up with new strategies. The price may go up in the future of air travel, and then will be costly in our personal view because of the restrictions. But I think situation will come up in a different way with social distancing, and then different concepts are coming up to adjust or readjust our tourism industry.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sumith De Silva. Once again, reminding everyone who's joining us today, you can post your questions as a comment if you're joining us on Facebook, or else you can you can post your questions on the chat of this panel discussion. Right now, I'm gonna forget about the elephant in the room, that is the COVID-19 pandemic, for a moment, and then focus your attention towards something else that is pertinent to this discussion. The corporate sector, in a way, can be equivalent to a ladder. It all depends on how fast and steady you climb the ladder. And as a beginner's step, everyone who applies for a job are hired on the basis of an interview. This could either be face-to-face, or given the current situation, this can be done virtually as well. But the first thing the interview board comes across before the interview itself is a resume that you present as a person who's applying for a job. My question is, if a company is looking for any key words or any key things on a resume, what should it be? How do you show yourself as an outstanding, unique person through a written piece of paper, so that someone will give you an opportunity in the corporate sector here in Sri Lanka?
I think it's for Sasha, right? Hello?
I would like, yes, Mr. Lalith, yes, I would like a response from you.
Before answering this question, I really thank for Dr. Sumith highlighting what's happening for the industry. I think by now, all students should know the severity of this problem. It's a huge problem. Don't take it easy. And only request from this young generation and all the corporate world is this is not the time to criticize governments. This is not the time to criticize individuals, the academia, professionals. Don't ever start criticizing. this complex problem, no leader has an answer for this. I'm telling that maybe young students must have studied about risk management. Risk management always has answers. For this type of risk, there's no theory in the world at the moment. Even Harvard is trying to, the best universities in the world are trying to find answers for it. So there's no risk mitigation plans for this type of thing. So this is the time, individually, you should do what we can do for the country, what we can do for the world. That's the number one lesson, the number one advice I would like to give to all these young people, especially you all are belong to, I think, generation, it said, you know, your age group is, what I found was between 20 to 24, the way you think, the way you behave, and they are completely different than our age group. So please, this is the time for you to learn those skills and start respecting the policies coming from your universities, your leadership, and the country's leadership, and let's do what we can do. That is the number one advice. It's so important. The more interruption coming, we have enough complexities that government has to focus, the corporate world has to focus. Don't disturb that processes if we come up with own ideas. It is so complex for all this. I think no agency in Sri Lanka or overseas has this issue. Now, with regard to the question, Tarja, people think there are keywords has to be there. Actually, the problem in Sri Lanka is, my experience is, we have fixed CVs. All the children, even professionals that I have been interviewing about last 3-4 weeks, we were looking for senior IT consultants. Their CVs, they have one CV. And when you see our advertisement and the CV, completely different. So if at all, if you want to come up with keywords, there's nothing, you have to come up with, you have to keep changing. You have to have multiple CVs, and we should update our CV to suit that particular job. Those are the keywords you have to edit. So remember, don't think just in a LinkedIn, you put a keywords and thinking, okay, now somebody looking for IoT experience or project management or artificial intelligence or, you know, drone technology. You just put those as keywords and the recruiters will look for that type of CV. It's not the case. You have to highlight based on the job. Make sure you change your CVs and the cover letter for the job requirement. And that is very weak. I'm telling this with a lot of responsibilities. And out of about 100, not even 5% has dynamic CV. They keep changing to suit their job. So you all have to learn how to write CVs, put the right keywords to meet the job criteria. That's what my advice would be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lalith. Ms. Roshanie, do you agree with Mr. Lalith, or do you have anything quite contrary to say to that?
No, of course, I agree with what Lalith is saying. Just to add something to that, you know, when we look at the CV, this is just a general comment after years and years and years of interviewing and looking at CVs. A general comment that I would like to make is that when you do your CV, make it short. Don't let it run into 5, 6, 7 pages, because when you're reading, I must say most of the senior people will not read all of that. 2 is when you write, a lot of people write an introduction about themselves. When you're just coming out of university after the degree, you know, people talk about that, you know, that they're passionate about a certain industry, that they are honest, they are good leaders. You know, I think that kind of endorsement has to come from somewhere else. You shouldn't be saying that, because it doesn't sound authentic. When, you know, if I do a CV for myself and I say I'm a good leader, I'm honest, I'm this, I'm that, it should come from one of your referees or somebody who's endorsing you. The other one I would like to say is that yes, qualifications matter. So you have to list it, because, you know, like Lalith said, when you put out advertisement, we put out we ask for a certain qualification. At least that's the base level qualification. But what then after that, what we look for is proof of the skill. Now, proof of the skill, how do you get across in a CV? Not in an interview, it's very easy because you're face to face, you're talking to somebody. But in a CV, to get through that shortlisting and the selection, how do you communicate that? That will come through with all the other activities you would have done in school or university or in the community. If you have had any leadership roles in the university, talk about it and talk about what you did with that leadership role. Whether it was a project or did you change something, did you introduce something to the university. Talk about what you did. Just listing the role says nothing to us. Talk about what you did in the community. Now, in the University of Perak, are you involved in the community? Are you doing any work for the community? Talk about those. When you talk about that, that tells us that you're not 100% only academic, but that you are concerned about certain things and that you spend time, your time is balanced, that you're able to balance your time. See, if you have good results and you've done 2-3 projects externally, that tells me, if I read that CV, that you're able to balance your time and that you give of yourself to others. Instead of you saying that you do charity work and that you've done this, that, and the other. I don't really believe when I read that kind of introduction. I look for it in the CV to see whether there's proof of that in the activities you've done. So try to do those and then try to write about it. That's my advice to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Roshanie. I would like to pose the same question to Dr. Sumith De Silva. What kind of experiences have you been getting
Yes,
regards to
it's a very interesting question, and I really appreciate what our previous speakers, eminent speakers, talk about. I'm really in agreement. I think I can summarize what they said and then just a couple of things. And we have to live with the CV. So that is the word that I use in my life. How can I live with the CV? Always look at the improvement. In Japanese management, there's a concept called Kaizen, which is the concept of continuous improvement. So can we think of in our life, how can I improve on a continuous basis? So therefore, so my suggestion to them is basically you look at your CV and you live with the CV, always think of improving it, and then you look at it from outcome basis, as Ms. Roshan correctly mentioned. Not only the activity, the outcome orientation. And then people today, they expect you to be resilient and work under pressure. It doesn't matter how many qualifications you have, how many work experience you have gained over the years, but it matters a lot when it comes to pressure and how to be innovative. So that is the key here. Even for example, in our industry, so we are challenged heavily by the challenges of the industry, because we have to be innovative in every aspect. So the opportunities are there for the innovative people, and companies need people to be innovative and then add value to the organization. And then elaborate your CV as to how you can add value, what values you can bring to the organization if you are hired. And the other thing, which is not reflected in your CV, is the attitude. We can list all our skills in our CV, but the problem is your attitude is not reflected on the CV. So then it comes, or it is delivered, or it is observed when you deliver the job. But you can take this opportunity to showcase how you have worked over the past with other employers, and then how you have balanced your work activities, and then how you have shown your attitude towards other extracurricular activities as well. So this is what I would really, and also people have different qualifications and they have gained a lot of value additions, but so they have the technical know-how. The problem in the modern organization is, what I see personally is, even though we have a lot of qualifications, education is there, we don't know how to work with people. So that is the most important thing. How to get things done from the people is very important. How to work in a team. So we are towards more individualistic, and people had undergone many individual classes, group classes, so and so. I'm not blaming anybody, but that is my personal opinion. But when it comes to the work environment, so we have to work with the people. So that social skill we have to, I think, highlight, and people are really expecting to people, the employees, the young undergraduates, to be having social skills. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sumith De Silva. I sincerely hope that was insightful for everyone who's joining us this evening. My next question, I would like to seek an answer from Mr. Lalith De Silva, something that is quite common from all the people who apply for a job is that, they work towards a particular job in hopes of getting a particular job, their dream job. But sometimes when they get it, when they settle in, sometimes we see that they get lost in it. Some problems arise, sometimes with punctuality, sometimes with etiquette and all that. Sometimes they get a little settled down and, just forget about the most important things. In your perspective, how important is etiquette and being on time and maintaining discipline at a workplace?
Thank you. And in fact, I must thank Ms. Roshanie and Dr. Sumith, what he has explained about the importance of the CV. Absolutely covered almost everything. Very professional advices for all these young people. Before I answering this question, I thought, there are a few things I was focusing only on the keyword, but let me also focus some key issues what we are seeing in our CVs in Sri Lanka. One thing they mention sometimes, the religion. That is immaterial. You lose chances of getting a job. Just religion is not important for a job. Don't put your ethnicity. These are not important. Then sometimes, people try to put, okay, the school, maybe they are thinking, okay, Anand, the Royal, all this, Visakha and all that. Sometimes the interview board, maybe they don't want. They are from some other different group. Don't just make sure, those certain things you don't need to mention. Sometimes they put the age. These are not important, right? But see that job where you can market. Your CV is a pitch, right? You must put only the things that is required. And sometimes you don't need to mention your sex, male or female. Doesn't mean anything. Just because, for a particular job, they may be looking for a male. But just because you have mentioned female, you may not get called for an interview. But when you go for a female, go for an interview, oh, this girl is so good. I think she is almost like 3 men who they have the capacity of a 3 men. So these things are not relevant. And especially if you're applying for overseas job. Now there's a huge market because after COVID, there's so many opportunities for you all to apply for global market. There's enough jobs are created because world learned that we can work remotely. The world learned about it, and many people now they think they can give some jobs to cut down the expenses. They might give some jobs for overseas market. So make sure when you're applying for jobs overseas, Western world or wherever, name. Sometimes you say Ahangama, Vidanage, Lalit. It's huge name. Cut down the name into 2. Those are irrelevant for them, right? And so the way you write CVs for overseas market is completely different than local market. Local market also, but make sure those unwanted things you don't need to mention. Sometimes the referees, you put referees. You can put referees available on request. Based on the job, you can say. But what you put to referees is your uncle, aunts, because you all are new. You all are young people, you are applying for the first job. Instead, like for example, Roshanie and Ramindu, last 2 days, you are organizing and you have been talking to me last 2 days. And maybe we create a relationship, so I can be your referee. It's a bit, rather than your uncle or auntie getting references. So think differently, and this is the time that you all try to find mentors, not from the academic world. Try to find some mentors because you have not done any jobs. So best thing is find some from industries, get 1 or 2 mentors and try to learn from them, develop your skills. And so this is also important, who are the referees. So coming back to your question about the facing an interviews, am I correct?
Mr. Lalith, yes, my question was how important is personal etiquette and maintaining
I think it's so important. Now, especially this advice is for, because I also have children from millennials and one is Z generation. So you remember, you all are going to a workplace, all the generations are there. For baby boomers, then Y, X, Y, and Z generation. So you are going to work in which 4 generation. So all of them, the way I think is completely different than you all. My expectations are different. So make sure you have to learn how this generation think and act. You can't just think the thing that you do with your parents. I know most of you, this age group, so to say this, I know there are many good students, all of you are good students. You are so fortunate to get into the best university in Sri Lanka. I congratulate them, but some of the attitudes we have to change. It's not the home environment attitude you can't take to the corporate world. Remember, is your parents are maybe most of you. My guess is, you know, Y generation or X generation. But remember, baby boomers are also there. That they're the top management, you know, most of the organization, public and private sector. Think how they think. They are so important. They are so much focused on etiquette, ethics. The punctuality is so important for them. Don't ever think that they will adopt your culture. You can't bring your own culture into the organization. Understand what is the culture of the organization. The values, before you applying for a job, before you going for an interview, or even after you get the job, if you want to remain and be successful in the organization, understand their culture, see the different people, how they think, learn how to be flexible, and don't ever think, I will take my culture into an organization. I think that is the failure. I think you all are young and you have, your brain is wired all these years to digital world, always phone. You get one message, you want to be in the Facebook all the time. You want to be the Twitter, Instagram, keep on change. That culture you can't take it to an organization if you want to be successful. You have to get out of the digital world. And of course, digital world you got to be for your job, you cannot take. My number one advice is you young children learn all this new generation, the old other generation, how they think, and bring the best etiquette, the values of an organization. Learn the importance of those values and make sure that you stick to those values. And to my knowledge and my experience, especially in Western world and even in Sri Lanka, many young people, although they are passionate on what they are doing, they keep failing in the organization because of their the etiquette and ethics and all that. So please, I think it's a wonderful question. If you want to be happy and successful, learn those things while you're doing your academic things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lalith. I would like to pose the same question to Ms. Roshanie Moraes.
Yeah, so to add on to what Lalith said, I endorse what he said. The values that you're talking about, they are age-old values, and I don't think it will change depending on the times or the generation. We shouldn't think that, being punctual, if you promise a certain deadline, delivering on that deadline, if you promise to call somebody back, calling back, answering a phone call, that kind of very, very basic values is a way that we show they don't change over time. I think those are evergreen and relevant to any time period. And they also tell you how you respect the other person. See, if I am called for a meeting at 10 in the morning, and if I don't show up at 10 o'clock and I just, come in, at 10:30 or 10:15, the message I am giving is I don't respect your time. and therefore I don't respect you. Now, when you treat that other person who was waiting for you from 10 o'clock till 10:15 or whatever, that way, do you think that he or she is going to treat you in any other way? So you can't earn that respect when you don't give that respect. When I say respect, it's not about, standing up when somebody comes. Those things you don't need to do. Nobody expects now. Calling by the surname and all. The world is very casual. It's on first name basis now. People are very friendly. So this is emotional intelligence, where you are able to figure out what is important and what is not. I think, being on time, delivering on your promises, keeping your word, all of that is very important. And if you violate those values, you can't sit back and wonder, why am I not growing in the company? Why am I not being treated well? Why am I not being respected? Also, even if you're doing your own business, it's still the same. Those values still hold true. You can't just get up at 9 o'clock and start work at 10:30 when your office or when your colleagues in the business are expected to start at 8 or 8:30. And that's how you learn emotional intelligence. You try to figure out, how do you treat other people? How do you gain respect by giving respect? It's really important, I think. I think you need to learn that. Uh, that's the most basic thing, and I think the most important thing when you step out of a university or a school or your home and get into the society and begin your life in the society. That's where real life happens, in our homes, in our schools, and to a certain extent even in our universities. Our kids are protected and sheltered. The moment you finish your education and step out of the institute, that's when real life happens, and you have to face life on the street. And these values hold us in good stead to face life on the street.
Thank you, Ms. Roshanie. As you said, it was like a basic outlook of the question that I posted. I have a small little additional question to ask you. That is, how important it is to maintain discipline and to maintain your etiquette and all that in line with company policies. If you apply for a particular company and if you get in, with regards to huge groups of companies and huge conglomerates, how important it is to remain in that square and not exceed any boundaries. Do you have anything to add to that?
See, when you say discipline, it is all comes down to values. So discipline is what we said, being on time, keeping your word. If you promise somebody to do something, do it in the time frame you promise. Say, for example, if you promise to turn in a report by Monday, you have to give it by Monday. If for some reason you can't give it by Monday, you should inform them at least on Sunday that for this reason I can't do it on Monday, but I'll do it on Tuesday. So I'm just getting into details because sometimes when you talk on concept, at a high level on a concept, we can't understand how you translate that into actionable things in a corporate. Corporates are generally very casual today. They're very friendly. There isn't a big power distance between bosses and staff. I'm just talking about my experience in our company. And I would think that is so in a lot of the other companies too. There is a lot of camaraderie and there is a lot of support to a new entrant. And there are processes in place to induct the person into the company and support them through the initial periods, which is generally the toughest time till you make some friends and till you learn about the processes. And discipline of yourself, as in how you project your conduct, your values, tells us in the initial few days who you are and what you value. And that actually goes a long way. So you need to pay some attention to that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roshanie. I would like to now come to Dr. Sumith De Silva as to what he has to say to this.
Yes, and it's a very, very interesting area actually. I am very much thankful to our two eminent speakers today. And what they really brought up is really, really admirable to the youngsters here. And the key word to me is attitude. So I am really a firm believer of attitude. And then I do believe your abilities, yes, no, your performance is depending on your ability, yes, of course, and plus your motivation and your attitude. And so if you look at the attitude, so attitude is a product of the belief system that you have. Your belief system, my belief system. And then if you look at your belief system, how do you deal with your belief system? It is from your education. You are getting your education, higher education. Then you change your cognition. Something is happening to your brain. Then you think of in a different way. You are a different personality. You are not a taxi guy. If you think of you are a graduate, it doesn't mean that you are working like a graduate or walking like a graduate. No. So you are thinking differently when you think of a taxi driver, for example. So you're developing your belief system from your education, from your parents, from your society, and from your teachers, etc. And then the keyword again, we talk about here values. So values are the things that we value actually. For example, you may value that I am integrity, I'm having integrity. I'm respecting, as we discussed earlier. So these are inner set of feelings, and then so how you behave. So they're the yardsticks of our behavior. So these are the critical thing. For example, at a workplace, the morality is very, very important today. How you conduct yourself, your moral value, which will determine the ethics and then the right or wrong behaviors, whatever. And today, we can see. So in my personal view, we are mostly towards we can get corrupted easily. But how you stay resilient, amidst the challenges we have. If you have a good value set, good morality, I think no one can change you because you have a strong belief on you. And then, for example, you have to do better in a workplace. If you do better in your workplace, so attitude is the key. Your morality, your values are the key. Sometimes they are really important than your qualifications. So this is very critical for our business sustainability. How you bring your personal value, and you are getting married to somebody, that means you are really respecting the values of the other as well. Same as you are finding a job, you are coming to a job, or you are accepting a job, means you are also getting married. It's a marriage. Why you get married? Why you get selected to the company and you start working in the company? That means you are accepting the value system of the company as well. So there is a combination. And then if you do want to do better in this or any job, I think three things are fundamental to you. First one is that you have to be a likable character. And the second one, people should trust you. Trustworthiness, how trustworthy you are. And the other one is the communication, how you communicate with people. That is the key. That is what I can share with you at this moment.
Thank you so much, Sumith De Silva. Moving on with today's discussion, ladies and gentlemen. My next question is, today's job seekers include not only graduates who are looking for a permanent occupation along with the benefits of a permanent job, but students who are still studying at universities and people who are just out of school, or in fact, students who are still in school, seek for part-time opportunities and internships at the corporate sector. The question I would like to pose is, what is the part-time contract basis and enrolling as an intern in the corporate sector in Sri Lanka? And do you encourage people to take up something like that to gain experience while being committed to something else? Or do you see a job only as a permanent thing?
Once again, Tarushi, I will just go back to the previous question and I'll get back to this.
Okay, sure.
I think it was very clear message from Dr. Sumith and Roshanie that more than the qualification, the values are very important. Please, it's a key message that we got from these two eminent speakers. Remember, if you don't think you get to the best university in Sri Lanka, you have got the first class, but make sure the values are more important for you to grow, get into a job, get a job, and remain there and grow yourself. That's the key message. Then again, the values, we are talking about basic values. You all are coming from different religious group. I think there's a lot of values that we have integrated in our life. But there are a few other values, like for example, Sri Lanka Telecom Group, where I was the CEO. When you go to a company, you must understand their culture and their own values also. For example, when I was the Mobitel CEO, I make sure they called me my first name. Even at the lowest level, they can call me first name. And that's the culture I built up. But when I come to Sri Lanka Telecom, they have been real public sector thinking. And if you get a job in Sri Lanka Telecom, and if you call some senior or your immediate manager with first name, that can be an ethical problem. And you might even, you will have a hard time. So when you get a job, you must understand, learn what is their culture. That is very important. So you should be flexible enough in your life, change your thinking and culture and behavior based on the organization culture. That is a very important message I want to give. In public sector, if you all join, because I can see many of you.
Mr. Lalith, just to interrupt you for a second, do you think when a person gets a job, how important is it to study about the workplace that you're going to work to? Will that help in this maintaining discipline?
Very, very important. It's not at the time of joining the organization, even when you are applying for a job, before you write a CV, understand their organization. Who are the people who's running this organization? What the organization culture? You have your own network and find the culture of the organization. And that's so important, even at the time of writing your CV. Then at the time of interview, knowing that culture, if you understand how, when you're facing, who is the profile of the people, who will be in the interview board, what is the personal culture, values, and the corporate culture. You got to study all that. And then once you get in the organization, you might have induction programs and all that. But slowly you adapt, learn what is the culture is all about if you want to grow. So you should be flexible enough. For example, I'm telling you, I have worked in Sri Lanka, I have worked in Australia, I have worked in the Middle East. My survival, my success has been always, I understand the organizational culture and the country's culture and my customer culture. So you got to learn all that. It's very important. Very good question, right? And then your second question was, the number one question was there.
Yes, initially my first question to you was, Mr. Lalith, what is the part-time contract basis
Yes.
and enrolling as an intern in the corporate sector in Sri Lanka? And do you encourage people to take up something like that to gain experience while being committed to something else? Or do you see a job only as a permanent thing?
I just want to share something very important, and I'm going to share this. I'm just sharing this very sad feeling as a professional. I had two daughters. One is 27 and one is 24. My 27-year-old girl has almost 11 years of work experience. They live in Australia. My 24 is starting from 6, almost 8 years. Before this panel discussion, I asked the organizers to check the number of people who has got work experience. It's so unfortunate. Less than 2% of the people have got some work experience. So I spoke to somebody this morning, one of your students who are today, I think they're attending, that he is 25 years and never worked. My key message, we have to change the policies of this country. From the age 16, you have to learn doing a little bit of jobs. Like, for example, my daughters work in pet shops, just making some cards, greeting cards, different jobs. You keep on different stages of life, you learn so many soft skills you learn from the organization. So you a challenge, let me answer the question, specific question. Don't worry about your permanent, or don't think of, don't hang around after your graduation. for your, dream job. Even while you are studying now, maybe some students are in the first year, please give attention, go and work somewhere. Now, I heard most of your students are from agriculture. I just asked how many people they're in the agriculture faculty, but never had put a, vegetable patch in their own house. How can this country can grow when we are doing agriculture, right? So please, this is the opportunity for you all. Raise your hand, go and do any job that you can. Everywhere, even an electronics engineer who trying to work in agriculture farm, they will learn some other soft skills. Now, we have been talking about emotional intelligence many times, but if you want to learn emotional intelligence, we'll discuss at the end the number of tools that we have to, enhance how, to enhance emotional intelligence. But my advice is, don't wait for COVID, post-COVID era. Don't think I'll look for a job after graduation. My only advice is, do even go and cut grass in somebody's house and try to earn some money and learn how to, develop your entrepreneurial skills, and also learn how to deal with customers, right? How to do whatever you can. Don't ever think of whether it's part-time, full-time. I'm telling next 2 years, don't expect you will have full-time jobs. I think out of this audience, I don't think even 10-12% will have full-time jobs. But that's not your own personal failure. The world is going through this difficulty. You all are the best, the cream of the country, and apply for overseas job. But in overseas job, remember, when you say, if you put your age and they find your age is 25 and you have no work experience, I will guarantee you will never get a job. Please remember that. If you go to global market, make sure you put the age, but at least learn something, find some mentors and learn few things relevant to your, whatever job you're going to apply, and show you have some work experience. That is so important. When they think until 25 years you have no work, that means they consider you are not smart guy. Period. So look and find. Don't think paid jobs also. It is your time for you to go unpaid volunteer work, either non-profit organization, profit organization, public and private. Go and do something, even 2 hours every day after while you're focusing on studies. Even you get less marks in your academic career. When I look for jobs now, I never think, what marks, what GRP and all that stuff. That is good for your PhDs. What I need is what your work, what you can bring to my organization, how value addition then you can bring it. Once you have done, sometimes, it's so sad in your CV. You say degree and then you put your A-level results and O-level results. It has no meaning. You got into university based on good results. You are wasting your time or, space on your CV. As Mr. Roshanie has very clearly explained, have a short CV. You are putting your A-level results. I saw a CV from one of the girls from the MBA who have done MBA from one of the top universities in Sri Lanka. All A-level results and O-level results are there with the MBA graduate. That shouldn't be. Get out of this. First, learn how to write your CV. So thank you. Go and look for a job from tonight itself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very important to all of us, listening to Mr. Lalith De Silva. Ms. Roshanie, over to you.
Yes, actually, I'll start from where Lalith stopped. Go and look for a job tonight itself. There is no shortcut to that. I completely agree. I want to actually, firstly, this is, you all are the best brains in the country. There is no question there, no, because, the top 25,000 or so get into university every year. So that's clearly the best brains that the country has produced. So this brain power that we have in the university, I feel, there is, whether there is any growth during the 4 years of university, I wonder. Whether it's a system that sets them behind, or whether it is the curriculum or what it is. Lalith talked about the agriculture faculty. In the last, since March, since we started locking down the country or parts of the country, we've all of us have started growing something in our backyards, in our balconies, in our gardens, in our rooftops. Most of us don't have big gardens. So wherever that is, even in pots, we are growing. I'm just wondering what the Faculty of Agriculture did to tell the country methods of growing, methods of getting productivity from a small space. We didn't have anybody coming and teaching us. We just went and bought some seeds and did something. But just imagine what all of us would have done if these brains told us. I'm sure there's a lot of research in the faculty. I'm sure you have ways and means of improving productivity in a small balcony, in a small area. But I don't think it came out in the market. I don't think it came out in the media. I don't think any one of you reached out to people like us and told us by any means, how do you, that's just an example. You asked about whether it's, about part-time, full-time employment. I'd like to share a little story from my life. Hopefully, some of you will be able to relate to it. When I did my A-levels, long years ago, 100 years ago, I sat my A-levels in August, and then I had got chosen to go on a student exchange scholarship to live overseas with a family for 1 year. And almost within 2 days of finishing A-levels, I went off. The physics paper had leaked that year. And as a result, they had the physics paper again for everyone. So I was already gone by then. I missed the physics paper. So I ended up with only 3 A-levels that year. So I came back after a year. And then I could have, of course, if I wanted to sit the exam again, done it again and tried to get into university. But I didn't. I thought I can't be bothered doing this exam again. I got a job immediately. And when I started work, and then of course I lived in Denmark for a year. I learned the language. My language helped me to get the job. So I got a job in tourism. And while working, I was regretting that I had not continued my studies. It was always bothering me because, like Lalith said, I had a dream of going to university, doing something else, and God knows what, when young people dream, we dream all kinds of things, right? So like you have dreams, I'm sure. So this was at the back of my mind bugging me, but my parents couldn't afford to send me overseas for university or even pay for private education locally. So I worked, earned, and did all my studies. I did MBAs and degrees and all of that here. My MBA is from APIEM, University of Sri Jayawardenepura. All of that was done part-time, paid for while working. So, I did my studies part-time. Perhaps that ethic got into me. I continued doing exams throughout my working career. And believe it or not, during this lockdown, because I was at home, I was doing my job, I was helping my son with his studies, managing the house, all of that. I still had a lot of time. And I was thinking, I'm not being productive enough. I enrolled myself for an exam and did an accounting exam. Just end of November, I sat that exam. So, it's all possible. It's how you manage your 24 hours. I sometimes think about people like, the celebrities who are doing scientific work, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. They also have 24 hours. We also have 24 hours. And it depends on how we use the 24 hours. So, okay, from a corporate point of view about part-time jobs, I think there will be lots of remote jobs because our work methods are going to change, and we are going to outsource jobs. We are going to get maybe change business models and have many employees working remotely on a part-time basis. So you will have part-time jobs. Internships, we were already doing that. You know, lots of graduates who go overseas, lots of students who go overseas, come back during summertime, July, August, and come straight to our companies and they say, I will work 2 months free. Can you give me an internship? I don't need any payment. That's how they come and earn their experience. Lalith talked about his daughters getting experience. We have 30, 40, 50 people coming to John Keys and saying, can you please give us 2 months internship during when we are on holiday? You can easily approach us. You can easily do internships with us, with many companies, and get an insight into what those companies are doing and how work happens in Sri Lanka. And when you build a relationship with a company after doing 1 or 2 internships, you know, because of the relationship also sometimes you can get hired. There were so many that I have worked with like that part-time on internships that I have hired later on once they finish their graduate studies. So that the internships is a very good way to get an insight into the working culture of corporates, as well as, you know, secure some potential jobs in the future. Thank you, Tarusha.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roshanie, and thank you so much for sharing your personal story with us as well. That was nothing but inspirational. I would like to move over to Dr. Sumith De Silva.
Yes, Tarusha, it's interesting. I was listening a very inspiring speeches, and then my young people here today. I think they have a powerful message from our eminent speakers. And to add something, yes, I have a story too. And then, so I think new undergraduates should not take a permanent job because our life is not permanent. That is my personal belief. Think of not permanent job, but you think of continuous upgrade of your competencies. I'm taking my example. So that can be your permanent solution for your career. So let your competency to be your permanent employer. That is my definition. Let your competency to be the permanent employer. If you have the competency developed, so you can be, you know, sold. You can add value. It is very correct that what Mr. Lalith shared with us today. You think of what you as an undergraduate contribute because you are digitally savvy, and then you can add value to our industry, agricultural based industry. So this, you think of your YouTube, for example, if you can run educational sessions on about agriculture activities, how we can do, so that can add value to our farmers where people don't know how to use technology. So this is one way of looking at it in a different way. Today the concept is, you know, you think of wherever you can get some experience, you go and get it. So it is so opportunities can be, you know, very minimal, but you don't think of getting an opportunity in a particular very large organization. Even you go to a small organization, you work there. So again, your attitude is the key. I can bring one example. I took around 55 people, or actually people who have done their A-levels from a very rural village where I come from, and to one of the star class hotels. My intention was to get them a training opportunity because one of my students is there as the operation director. And then unfortunately, the hotel spent the money for the entire bus, an entire one day, and then we ran a workshop, and it cost a lot of money. None of the people or the students who came there wanted to join the hotel because I researched why. Then the attitude was, the parents' attitude was very powerful, and they had said, "Mage puta mogadada me hotel leke kitchen leke wada karanne. Why should my son or daughter work in this hotel in the kitchen?" It was very sad. The company spent around nearly 2 lakhs to run the program, but none of them had that opportunity. But I then told them, if I get the opportunity to work there, so I will learn how to cook in a 5-star way. And then I will run my own hotel one day in my village. It's a 5-star hotel or restaurant I will run. So that is the attitude we have to think of. It's it is not only the permanent job. So I come from very rural village, as Ms. Roshanie explained. I think I can also take 1 minute. I come from Sevanagala, which is in the Moraes district, and where my fathers taught entire life, and he passed away last year. And we had all the hardships, no electricity, no water. My father had been the teacher there from 1970. And so we were developed based on a value. I still worship to my fathers because they had inculcated good values and ethics in our behavior. And then luckily, actually I was a failure at two attempts at the A-levels, but I never gave up. Luckily I came to goal and then attended classes for 6 months. And then I got selected to Rajarat University. And again, we had hard life at the Rajarat University. And that is the beginning. Even today, so even you can think of allocating your time. For example, I don't sleep even today before 12 midnight. Believe me, I don't sleep because it is a matter of how you manage your life. It is not only hard work because you have to have a passion. You have some time because you have some goals, yes, but it's not only hard working, but you work smart because we are talking about a smart world today. And then you can allocate your time very efficiently. If you be efficient at your work, and then you can even dedicate yourself to serve different people. And then amidst our challenging work environment, even today we managed to find some time to do a lecture at a university, to attend a program like this. So every day we enjoy a lot. It's your passion. Make your competencies. You get engaged whatever you do, and you love your passion, and then move with the people and think of out of the box, and don't spend your time. And you can think of their social organizations, NGOs are there charity organizations. You go and their work and go and work there freely. So there will be some opportunities for you. So that is the message that I can give to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sumith. Thank you once again for sharing your personal experience with us as well. I'm quite sure that it was inspirational to all of us who are listening in this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we are closing in towards the end of today's discussion. So it's my pleasure to move on to the question and answer session. We have one question from one of the students. I would like to direct this question to Mr. Lalith De Silva. He or she had asked, with the prevailing situation in the world, the current graduates and the undergraduates who are about to finish their degree are lacking with the industrial experience. Most of them have not real-time training on the fields they are willing to enter the corporate sector. Will this be a problem when applying to a job without working experience? What will be the solutions they can have to overcome that and reach a job that they are seeking for?
Yes, it's a very good question. And in fact, yes, because of lack of experience, you may have challenges. However, while you are looking, I think once also I mentioned, while you are looking for a passionate job, you should either you can write to organizations, gain experience, or you walked into an organization as can say that, look, I'm just graduating on such and such date. Do we have a jobs? If you don't have jobs, can I do a part-time, full-time, whatever? And say, if not, don't worry, I would like to volunteer myself and gain some experience and contribute to your organization. You got to do you can go to the public sector organization, private sector, or even non-profit organization. Don't look for the passionate job. At this time, the key message is you should be passionate for learning and experience, gaining experience. So definitely there will be challenges, especially with COVID time, and also it will create a lot of opportunities as well. Because even in Sri Lanka, a lot of people are cutting down expenses. So some senior jobs are wiped out, some part-time jobs are gone, and for survival of organization, they might look for some volunteers to come and work. Grab those opportunities. You are contributing, whatever the job, think that you are contributing for nation's development. You all got free education. I think if it is an engineering student, government must have spent at least 3 million rupees for you. I don't know the exact number. For agriculture, the same thing, or medical student, maybe some medical students who are here, but 5-6 million. Imagine all other countries, Western world, if you are a graduate, when they graduate from US universities, you end up with $300,000-400,000 dollars of loan. And I know some of my relatives and friends, they're still after 10 years in the workforce, they're paying back their country, they're paying the loan. Same thing in Australia. So you all are fortunate student, but you have an obligation. You have to pay back whatever the country has given. So this is an opportunity for during COVID time, go back and do something to rebuild this country. Pay back whatever the country has given. So that's number one. And also, I also like to, I was so inspired by hearing Ms. Roshanie's and Dr. Sumith's personal life experience and how they started. I will also, let me also share a few things with you all, very key points in my life. When my first job is tuition, when I was doing grade 11 A-levels at Ananda College, I was going to Balangoda at that time. It takes 3 hours trip, and I'm giving tuition from a school, you know, a big tuition class, because government has restriction for the teachers, government teachers to give private tuition. So I gave for all of our students while I was doing A-level. That's my first starting point. The second thing is how I express my knowledge. You must have seen my profile. I have been in the airline industry, telecom industry. Industry does not mean anything now. Why? I knew the importance of broader knowledge. Those days when I was a kid, when I was going on a train, I make sure I get into train driver's engine and say, I want to learn what is his job like. When I fly at the age of, I think 17, 18, I went in the cockpit to learn about what is his job is all about. When I, you know, as a kid, I went to courts and to understand what is lawyer's job, judge's job. So you got to have a wide experience and knowledge that helps me to become a CEO. For example, I'm an engineer by profession, electronics engineer. So a lot of people ask, how can you become an airline board director or consultant? The main thing is whatever, at the first year itself, while I'm doing hardware or software jobs in IBM, I work for IBM in Sri Lanka. What I did was, the knowledge that I don't get in finance, so I volunteer to become treasurer in non-profit organization. So I understand the balance sheet, profit and loss statement. At the time when I didn't have knowledge in marketing and sales, I volunteer in professional bodies to become marketing director. So what your job is, think of the skill that you did not get in the university, volunteer and try to get that knowledge and skills from the volunteer organization. That's also important. And the main thing, what I could add to today's session is, please ensure, if you want to climb up and you have your dream job, throughout your life, you have to do some volunteer work. It is scientifically proven the volunteer workers are the happiest people in the world, and the volunteers are the people who climb on the top of the jobs, right? So there are 2 messages, and to answer your key questions again, please don't be formal, put it to your genes and just walk around, go to cities where you want and ask for jobs. And there are many jobs available in the market, although we think the jobs are declining for you all, for young people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lalith De Silva. I would like to come back to, I would like to actually move over to Ms. Roshanie, but just before that, I would like to mention the fact to everyone that right after the session or even right now, you can give us your feedback on the chat section right here in the below, the bottom of your screen. It will be of great help for the NextStep 360 and all those folks at the University of Peradeniya as well. Thank you so much. I would like to move over to Ms. Roshanie Moraes, and just to give you a little idea of what the question was, someone had asked that with the prevailing COVID-19 situation in the country, the current graduates and the undergraduates who are about to finish their degrees are lacking field experience. Most of them have no time in training on the field. They are willing to enter the corporate sector. Will this be a problem when applying for a job without any working experience? What are the solutions that we can embark upon?
Yeah, I think you might face that, but you know, in Sri Lanka and like in other countries, we know when some a university graduate comes that they come without experience. but I think y'all can change it. Maybe, you know, this generation should start changing it. Like Lalit said, go volunteer and do some work. It's better to have some part-time work done. And I won't buy the excuse that you don't have time, because we can make time. And I won't buy the excuse that there is no work also, because if you are in Kandy, just go around Kandy. I can suggest places to go. Even though we are sitting here, I can suggest places to go where you go and work and get some experience. The learning you get from those experiences is immeasurable. And most companies, most organizations will be very happy to let you put that voluntary service on your CV, or will give you a letter saying that you volunteered for 2-3 weeks or whatever. They'll be very happy to do that, I'm sure. Just go and do that. You know, there are lots of businesses, and there are businesses that are in trouble because of COVID. And you can volunteer to help them. Because I am thinking that, you know, Peradeniya must be having so much of research and so much of knowledge that are not tested in the business world. And here is a time to take that knowledge. And like I said, you know, these are the 25,000 best brains in the country. Nobody outside have your brain. Put that to work. And volunteer to solve some problems that are out there on the road, which are the real life problems. You know, all what you're solving within a university is simulations. There are simulations, there are, yes, real world problems brought into the university, but you're solving it in a theoretical manner. Take that out. Take that out to Kandy. I'm saying Kandy because we're talking to the University of Pera people. Take that out to wherever, in your villages, in your towns. You will find, if you step out, you will find enough organizations, enough SMEs. You know, I researched a little bit before I got on this call. In Sri Lanka, SMEs contribute 45% or 55% to the economy, to the GDP. So they are more important than the conglomerates and the big companies that are around. Lots of SMEs. There were so many SMEs who called me and wanted us to help to navigate through this COVID, because they don't have sales, they don't know whom to sell to, they can't find other markets. Like I can, you can. Come and volunteer. You know, I can give you enough of contacts to go to and volunteer. And go and work for free. This is not a time to ask for salaries and money from SMEs. And the experience you gain and the knowledge you gain and the network you build. Don't forget that. That has value. The network you build by volunteering is your remuneration. Just get on the streets tonight. Talk to some companies in your villages. You know, talk to some shops, small businesses, small service places that are struggling. Volunteer your time. The satisfaction you get, I cannot explain. I would love to hear from 10 or 12 people after doing that for about a week. Let us know how you feel. I'm sure you'll feel very productive, very satisfied, and as if you've accomplished quite a bit. So do that. Get out there and do that, please.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roshanie. Unfortunately, we are running against time, so I would like to pose the questions that I have received to one person directly and then move over accordingly with the rest of the questions. I would like to pose this question to Dr. Sumith De Silva. One person has asked, is it okay to pursue a job that is not related to the field that they are studying currently?
Yes, it's a good question. For example, even agriculture graduates are employed in different industries and different sectors. To me, the core is, you know, you will be doing better if your core is if you find a job in accordance with your core area. That is my personal belief. For example, earlier I thought I am an HR guy. So later on, I found myself is not, I'm HR, yes, but that means human relations, yes, that's good because I have good PR. But moreover, then I thought of I have business skills and the marketing skills. And luckily, if you look at my career, so I take my example because I have done commerce for the levels and done the business management degree, and again marketing MBA, and then the PhD as well in marketing, and then professional qualifications, SLIM and other certified professional marketer, Asia, etc., all in business and marketing. So then my job is also in the same area is business and marketing and international business. So then I think personally, if you do better in your, you will do better in if you get a job in your core area. So that is what you have to think, but it doesn't mean that, undergraduate is like, so we are molding an undergraduate with the theoretical and then theoretical knowledge. And then what you have to do is you have to apply it in different context. It's like, so you should be adjustable to work under any industry and under any circumstances, because you have core ingredients, whether you have done physics or whether you have done chemistry or whether you have done arts or commerce. But I don't say that a person has done arts and then he can be a scientist or physician. It doesn't mean, but to a certain extent you can be adapted yourself to fit to the industry requirements because you are graduate. Forget about your stream or discipline, subject discipline. But my personal view, you are a graduate, then you can think of how can I adjust myself to meet the requirement of the industry. But my second thought, if you will do better, in my personal view, if you are in line with your core area.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sumith De Silva. Actually, we have someone who's willing to ask a question, one of the viewers. His name is Lavindu. Lavindu, you can unmute your audio and you can ask the question from any of the panelists that we have today with us.
Thank you, Tarusha, and thank you, Roadtrack, for giving this valuable opportunity in this wonderful evening. First question goes to Ms. Roshanie. Ma'am, you told in your briefing that when writing a CV, if you have done extracurricular activities or the social activities, or have done some service to the university or the society, you must detail them rather than just pointing them out. But in the other hand, if the CV goes for about 4 to 5 pages, if one tries to cut it down, will he or will she be compromising an opportunity of expressing him or herself out? So how can we make this clear?
Okay, no, so you can actually write it. See, like Lalith said, if you have done a degree, you don't need to talk about your O-levels and A-levels. Anyone knows that to get into the university, you have to have excellent A-level results. And to have excellent A-level results, you should have been a good student at O-levels. So you don't need to waste space and time writing about your O-levels, A-levels, and perhaps your school details if you already come to university stage. So just mention it. The qualification tells us your level of education. But then we look for other things, like I said. If you have played in a team sport or captained a team, or if you have led a project in the university, there are so many projects, right? Or did you do a project for a corporate from the university? At least mention a little bit. Then we can probe into that. That will get you through the door in the shortlisting, because those things tell us about your leadership skills, whether you're a team player, whether you communicate well with others, whether you also give back to the community. It tells about your attitude. But when you read a little bit, you can read between the lines and understand the person a little bit. But you still have to keep it short. You can't run into several pages.
Yeah, thank you, madam. And my second question is an open question. Now, as I see in this era, most of the graduates or also the youth, they try to change the job, like frequently they want to change the job. So it is a challenge for any company that like recruiting a potential graduate or maybe any young individual. They have given us a training and they have given an internship on the job training. And if one tries to leave the company after several years, will there be an opportunity cost, or how a company can identify a potential graduate that would suit their culture and whom could prosper in their organization where both of them can have an earning? So it's an open question for of three our dear panelists. I expect that all the graduates also, this answer would help them finding their passionate job. Thank you, sir.
Maybe Mr. Lalith, you want to go first?
Yeah. Now, what I suggest is, what I think is that you as students and even employee, you should not worry about how much the company invests on you. When they have investment or training, or investment on you, they also have a plan. They don't invest just like that. They have a plan to get best out of you. At the same time, you have to be loyal. For example, if a company has spent 5 million rupees this year, the loyalty matters a lot, right? And you don't just leave the company with contributing 500,000 rupees and leave for other companies. Now, you should also give some commitment, long-term commitment for the company when that type of things are happening, investments and all that on your training. But what I say is, if you want to grow in life as a professional, many people might not agree with me, keep changing jobs. If you want to become a true leader, go to different organizations, understand public sector experience, go to private sector, go to non-profit organization, go to SME sector, go to listed company, PLCs, go and do that. You broaden your knowledge, you learn so much of skills. But at the same time, my personal advice is very important. Don't try to misuse the company's asset for your own personal glory. That never do it. That's ethics, right? So if you have plan, you have 2 years plan and say, look, I want to go from Sri Lanka Telecom to Mobitel. I like your training, but I decline your training. Remember, keep your own brand value in your organization. That your brand value. Nobody can take it, because world is small. People can talk about it. We come across. Now, I will give an example. My 35 years of career, all my bosses, Westerners, Middle Eastern, still they're my friends, because that ethics and loyalty. So remember, keep moving jobs, gain more experience, and also don't stick to your own specialized area. Of course, if you want to go, that's also fine with me, fine. But keep changing if you want to go. Get overseas jobs. Learn different skill set. All right. So thank you.
Anyone else want to add something to that? We have a very short period of time, and I would like to pose one last question after two of you decides to answer the question of Lavidu.
Okay, so I would like to add something. I think I agree with Lalith, you should change jobs because that will add to your skill set and that will challenge you in the process. But I won't elaborate on that. One thing you must know is the frequency of changing, because you have to be able to stay in a place apart from the values. If the company has given you 5 million worth of training, you are obliged to make sure that you contribute towards that. But apart from that, you have to stay in a job for your sake. Why I say that is, when you start a project, you have a project or a job, you have to show results. For example, if you're running a company and if you move in 2 years, you yourself don't know whether you have the skill to run a company through different phases. So you have to understand your skill, and how you understand your skill is by delivering something. Say you take on a project, you're a project lead, and you do first 2 years of the project and leave. But you don't know whether you had the ability, whether you have the capability within you to see that to an end and have a positive result. If you keep changing every 2 years, you yourself don't know what your skill is and what your strength is. So that's the point I want to make here. So you have to really, give it a few years to go through the ups and downs and deliver or take a company through a certain phase. And that gives you confidence. And then you know that you're able to do something.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roshanie. Right before we wrap up, I have a very humble question from one of the viewers that's directed towards you, asking for the exact locations and information on how they can volunteer and intern at the John Keels Private Limited Company.
Okay, so you can share my email maybe with them. They're very welcome to write. And I will suggest places for you within us, and of course in other areas too. Suggest some places for them to go and talk to. No worries at all. You can share my email.
Right. I will let you know, let the organizers know, and I'm pretty sure they're listening in right now as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for bearing with us for 2 hours, almost 2 hours. I'm pretty sure it was a very inspirational discussion to all the viewers who joined with us today. And it was a fruitful discussion, and it was my absolute pleasure to have all three of you once again mentioning their names, Mr. Dr. Sumith De Silva, Mr. Lalith De Silva, and Ms. Roshanie Jasundara. Thank you so much. Right before I come to the conclusion of today's discussion, I would like to leave you with a quote. If a man is called to be a street sweeper, he should sweep streets even as Michelangelo painted, or Beethoven composed music, or Shakespeare wrote poetry. We should sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will pause to say, here lived a great street sweeper who did his job well. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and all the very best to all the participants. I hope you succeed. I'm sure you will succeed in whatever you do. Bless you all.
Yeah, good luck all. Thank you very much, our many speakers as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all of you. Thanks for organizers. Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.